Our next guest is one of the more colorful characters through the years of contestants on Jeopardy. So much so, not only a Tournament of Champions winner, but they loved his personality so much, brought him in to host. He's been hosting this week the Tournament of Champions.
He's been doing a great job.
2021. Buzzy Cohen is joining us. Morning, Buzzy. Good morning
thank
to
you.
sir. Hey, I got to ask you, man, how was it? I mean, you guys film these things in advance. Was it as surreal as you thought it might be, being up there, standing in Alex's place?
Totally. It was like dreaming in a dream, like it was so bizarre, but also so wonderful. It's always great to be back on that stage. I'm a fan first, so anytime I get to be a part of the show, I'm absolutely stoked. But even on the first tape day, we taped 5 shows in a day. So the first week of shows we did in one day.
Wow.
On the lunch break of the first week, I just went out and walked out on set just to drink it in and have a moment by myself. Cause you never get that, you're always when you're a contestant, you're always in the green room, you're being shuttled off. And so I really tried to take advantage of that. And it was, I was in Alex's green room. It was
so wild.
I was really connecting with him. It was amazing.
Well, I have to say, first off, you've been doing a great job. I love to see people who excel, and Ken has done it. You guys are GOAT status, and Ken the GOAT at this point, but still, you guys have, I think, a singular credibility when it comes to being up there and doing this. And the show is just so you can tell you are a fan. And if you were nervous, that didn't come through. What I do love is the knowledge, and you always sense this with Alex, that there is a wealth of knowledge behind the clue giver who can sort of accentuate a little bit of information that's being, imparted throughout the show. As you're doing it, did you have that moment, though, in that where you're so overwhelmed, where you're like, oh, yeah, I'm actually running this thing? Did you lapse into contestant mode for a nanosecond or observer mode?
Well, I spent about 4 weeks getting prepared for this, and I had to I watched a lot of Alex, and I had to totally change the way that I was watching the show to switch. So by the time we got there to the actual tape day, I had my mentality had totally shifted. But one thing that I think it really helped me with is that being a contestant, I kind of understand the way you listen to the clues and hear the clues.
Yes.
And so it helped me kind of understand where to kind of put a little more emphasis because, like Alex, I want the contestants to get the questions. I'm not here trying to trick them.
Well,
so,
there's a perfect example of that. And you make a good point. Last night, there was a clue where this spotted dance, and it was polka. And I would not have known it other than the clue of spotted. I thought, polka dots. Yeah. And so, but that's the genius of the show. And then you asked it.
Totally.
I think you laid it in there. I got it. They didn't get it, but I got it. And that's what Alex did so brilliantly.
Yeah, I think that he was my North Star, and what he always did was he was on the side of the contestants and the show, the integrity of the show. And so that's whenever I had a question about how to approach something, it was how do I keep the integrity of the show as strong as possible, and also make this enjoyable for the contestants. My Tournament of Champions was so fun, and I just wanted to make sure that they were having a good time. For me, that was making sure that the taping and everything went as smoothly as possible. And so I really just wanted to do a great job, not just for myself, but also for them and also for the fans. I wanted them to have a great Tournament of Champions. This is a highlight of the year.
Buzzy, was there anything that you discovered that you didn't realize it was one of Alex's responsibilities as host? Maybe that's kind of not even seen. It's just you have to be in that place to go, oh, yeah, he does this as well.
Well, the thing that you realize when you start, because when you're getting ready as a contestant, you're sort of ignoring his reads in a way. You're reading the clues faster than him to try to figure out if you know it, and then just listening for him to finish. What I realized is every single clue that he is reading, he approaches like its own thing. He doesn't have a Alex clue read. Every single clue is its own story.
I don't know where that's coming from.
It's not a marathon. It's 61 sprints. Each clue, he gave its own life. And that, to be able to do that and not just kind of like zone out and get into like, okay, here's my clue read rhythm, is incredible. And I think the other thing he did so well was he could pepper in little bits of color, like just for fun, like teasing that, oh, you're out of the hole, blah, blah, blah. Doing that when you're in the moment and trying to track what clues happening, all that is not easy. And, you know, I think what was amazing is how effortless he made the entire thing.
Preston and I, and we've all discussed those little things, like when like encouraging somebody. That's right.
Totally.
Those little things which seem like, oh, what? He's just simply conversing. That everyone can do that. No. To sort of finesse it in there and keep momentum. Because think about it. Without that, you'd have these glacial pauses that that would really resonate. But that forward momentum, and you're doing it well. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
And so yeah, I mean, but that's why the show is the creme de la creme of game shows.
I agree. And the other, like, little things like that I had to learn at the beginning, which was like saying yes, correct, right, good, not always just saying yes, yes. Right. By the way, when the first time I did it, I just, like, you know, when I did a practice game on my own, it was yes, because we don't think about changing it up, but as a viewer, it gets so boring when you hear. So little things like that he just, because he'd been doing it for almost 40 years, it was just so second nature.
Yeah. As a radio show host, that's one of the things that I do. So I'm glad other people are finally picking up on that. So yeah.
Buzzy, this is Nick. I'm a huge fan, and thanks for responding to me over Instagram and agreeing to come over the show. It was really cool, and I've been watching, like Steve and everybody here, every bit of the tournament over the last couple of weeks. I wanted to ask you about polarizing contestants, because Ryan was on last night, and there was a lot of response to him that was negative. And he made it to the Tournament of Champions. He's a really good contestant. He's really smart.
Yeah.
But he was kind of off-putting, and so I saw on social media, and I contributed to it. That there was some pushback against the guy. But you, as a host, obviously you have to remain neutral. Is it hard for you to incorporate that into your job while you're actively hosting it?
I mean, Ryan was, if you hadn't seen it last, he basically was a bad sport. He was kind of, he read as a bad sport. Yeah.
I'm going to come to Ryan's defense here. I've been through this, and I know people who have, like, everyone has a different approach to this. And I think Ryan, he was a great competitor. First of all, he's a great player.
Yeah.
If you look at, if you take out those daily doubles, he outplayed Veronica last night, right? If just straight clue play. And I think that it's hard to be on. How many of us have to be on camera for like a devastating moment like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not, like, I think, if to compare Jeopardy contestants to professional athletes is not quite fair, because if you're a professional athlete, you've been through like the high school and college, and you've been through this, like, this is the second time he's lost a game of Jeopardy ever. Okay. He played his heart out, and it just wasn't enough. It's hard to have 4 cameras on you in that moment. And he and the other contestants have a great camaraderie. I don't think it had anything to do with Veronica. I think it's hard to be processing that on camera. I think that different people have different, like, I had a very, like, happy-go-lucky, win-lose, whatever attitude. Not everybody's like that, and I don't think we need to expect that from.
I'm sorry. The dude made it to the Tournament of Champions semifinals, and I'm sitting there on my couch, and so it's I have no place to judge. I'm a viewer. I'm not a contestant, so I don't want to be harsh on the guy, but it's just got to be. You see people rooting for or against particular contestants, and it makes it difficult for somebody like that, I'm sure, to have to go through.
Yeah, and for me, I was like, to be honest, when I saw I think the feeling in the studio was I think a little different than what it came across at home when he missed that daily double and then was like trying so hard to come back. I think everybody suddenly was like, oh man, you got to feel for this guy.
Well,
like,
and that to me read. That even at that point, that read is passion. I got it. I'm like, damn it, I'm off my game. Or like, I just happened to a couple of days ago we were at a golf charity, and I'm seeing people respond who are hitting bad shots. Like you see that same frustration. I got that.
Yeah.
At the end, you would like to think though, and again, you're right. It's a unique circumstance. Everything's on the line, and I get it because I think he's normally a likable guy. It just seemed like there was. It was her moment. You lost, and he's. I think that's what a lot of people read and saw. It's like, wow, man, you not even an acknowledgement or something, and that's what it is.
And also you have to remember there's editing, like those after.
True.
That after game chat is much longer than what you get on TV. So I think everyone's got to give game show contestants a lot more. I mean, people thought I was an arrogant asshole when I was on the show. Am I allowed to say that?
No. We'll let it go.
Arrogant ass.
Yeah,
but but you were.
But I was just having fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that it's very easy for us to like project a lot of stuff. The other thing to remember too is like this is very different. The experience of taping because of COVID, the studio is very empty. It's just like other players and a couple of producers in the audience. So I think you're less self-conscious, right, about how you are presenting yourself when you're up there.
Buzzy, I wanted to ask from a contestant's perspective, and one who especially gets on a roll like you and wins multiple nights, because you don't know what the categories are going to be. How do you bone up? How do you prepare for that? Do you dive into? Do you research the things that you're weakest at, or do you take the history of categories and what likely might be on there? Like, I don't know, Shakespeare is my Achilles heel. It's terrible. So if I were to head into the show, would it be a good idea to bone up on my Shakespeare?
Yes, it would. Shakespeare, rivers, capitals, classical music. But the thing to remember is I actually wrote an audiobook called Get Ready, available on Audible. Sorry for the plug.
No, absolutely.
That is about kind of how I got ready for the show. And what you realize is that Jeopardy has certain subjects it likes to cover, and it is a piece of mass market entertainment. So they're not going to pick something completely obscure, right? So there's sort of a depth of information that they're going to go for. And so for me on that stuff, I really looked at not just what the show has asked before, but the types of things that they've asked before. So for instance, like, if there's Pulitzer Prize winners, you don't have to know every book ever published, but there's notable books to know.
Yes,
right?
No, that's absolutely true.
And with Shakespeare, you don't need to know every single plot point, but it would be good to be able to connect either a place or the main characters to the show, because every Shakespeare clue is going to have a character's name in it. So if you know that Cordelia is King Lear, that's all you need to know. You know what I mean? You don't need to know you don't need to read King Lear. And so there's all these different pieces of information. In the Jeopardy world, they call them Pavlovs, right? So like if the year is 1927, we're talking about Lindbergh or the Yankees. You know, it's like
no, but that's a skill set. Right. To know a little about a lot is what, and it sort of works in radio as well. Like I say, I can go about a minute and a half into any conversation and then tap out. But you guys are on another level. Preston, tell what you guys do on the final Jeopardy question.
Oh yeah, okay.
So and you might get a kick out of this,
Nick
Buzzy. This is a thing that they all do.
Nick and Casey and I, when the category comes up, and there's a commercial break right after that, we will text each other what we think the answer is, what we think the clue is, without even hearing the answer. So just on subject alone, if it will be, American authors.
Right.
Well, Nick got it the last time. The last correct answer before the question was, what was the category, Nick? And what was...
man, I'm blanking on it.
Okay, I said Roald Dahl, and you said it was like children's literature or something like that.
Yes. Okay.
And
so this is a game we play, and every now and then,
you guys you can join in. There's a Twitter account that's just for that, Jeopardy Blind Guesser.
That's great. But that speaks to what you were saying, though, to know what the go-tos. We watch the show enough.
Exactly. Like if there, John Updike comes up a lot. Do people read a lot of John Updike? I don't know, but John Updike comes up a lot. Know. So it's exactly that, and. They're not going to ask about some author that nobody's heard of, because watching at home, you're completely lost.
Yep.
Even if you don't know it, even if you don't know that Eugene O'Neill wrote Moon for the Misbegotten, you hear Eugene O'Neill and you're like, I should have known that.
Wait, Buzzy, I have one for you, Buzzy. Chinese-born American architect.
That would be I Am Pay.
Every time.
If that ever shows up.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of that's what, when you're playing Jeopardy, you're not, a lot of the clue information is sort of superfluous. Last night there was a clue about during the Eid festival, you eat this thing with this food that has another name for its worm-like appearance. All you need to know is worm-like noodle, and you know it's vermicelli.
That's
Any
it.
of the other information. Right?
That's what makes it such a great game, is that there are tactics that can be employed that are, it's not just happenstance. I mean, there certainly is a level of that, but there is a way to play the game and have different methodologies that can get you across the line. And then, of course, there's also luck.
Tons of luck.
Yeah, and that's it.
And then that clue I just mentioned is a great example of, as a viewer, you might know vermicelli, but then you learned all of this stuff about the Eid festival and another quote. Like, you can learn, like, of course there's the game aspect, but then there's all the other information which may not help you get the answer. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that, you know?
Yeah.
When I host trivia night at my kid's school. We brought it to the school. It's Quizzo night, and I'm the one who comes up with the questions. And I take a page out of Jeopardy's notebook. Like, I will ask a question where, you know, the audience will be like, how am I supposed to know the answer to this? And then you're supposed to ask yourself, how am I supposed to know the answer to this? The answer is in the question. Like, why would you think that any of us would even know this answer? Well, what's the question and how is it asked?
You're right.
Great riddles are done that way.
And that's it. Exactly. If you watch like a straight up college bowl type of game where they don't do that, you'll get slaughtered, because it's as dry and unborder collie-ish, you know, in the way that you can be directed a little bit. It's just antiseptically, what is this? And I find I have to tap out, but I can do better at Jeopardy because of just a little bit of prodding will get you there.
There's usually like 3 clues in each clue, and I think I got a chance to finally meet the writers. As a contestant, you've no contact with the writers. So as the host, I finally got to meet them, and I was just like singing their praises, because I think the format of the show, having so many clues, like if there's a category about, you know, some pop artist or some subject you don't know, it's only a couple questions and there's a bunch of other stuff. That's one thing. But the writing of the clues is so masterful. And I was like, I'm not worthy, because it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's always a way, even if you don't know the information, to find, like, except for maybe the $2,000 clues, which sometimes you got to know it or you don't.
It's true.
90% of the clues, you can figure it out. And that is as much fun as knowing something cold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Buzzy, I wanted to ask you about another book. It's called Answers in the Form of Questions. Claire McNear wrote it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or even. And she goes into the production of the show and where the contestants stay and what they bring to the set and how many different pairs of clothes they have to wear and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you think that was an accurate representation of what your time as a contestant on Jeopardy was like?
Absolutely. Claire is fabulous. Like, we joke that if Jeopardy is Harry Potter, she's our, like, Rita Skeeter or whatever. She's like, you know, like,
the Daily Quiddler or whatever.
Yeah. Or what, I don't know if she likes that, but I actually, you know, I interviewed her. I actually invited her out to, there's like an ex-Jeopardy trivia night here in LA, which is like known as one of the hardest bar trivia nights in the country. So I made her come out and play to have that experience. She's incredible, and she really knows her stuff, and she's a fan. And she, like, I think that's I really recommend that book to people who are fans of the show, because you start to see all these different sides of the experience, whether it's, you know, being a contestant, sort of community afterwards. You know, I think she did a great job of sort of giving everyone a taste of the experience. And not everyone's experience is the same. You know, some people have, you know, not a great experience when they come to taping because of whatever reason. But I think she did an amazing job.
That's cool.
I love that book.
You know, I knew about the filming schedule and 5 a day, but what I didn't consider is, say, when you had your 9-game run, you were doing all those, you had to have knocked out 5 in one day as a contestant as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Wow.
so my first game was a Monday game. So I did 2 consecutive tape days, and I lost in the 10th game. I lost on the last game of the second day. And I think that's part of what, you know, once you're a contestant, when you see someone go on a long streak, the endurance of, just shot nerves coming in to do it again. I mean, it's not, they usually only tape 2 or 3 days a week. So it's not like you're doing 5 days of 5 shows a day.
Right.
But it's still just such an impressive feat of endurance. And getting ready to host, I knew I needed to have endurance and bring the same energy to a Thursday or Friday game that I bring to a Monday game.
Yeah.
So for that month where I knew I was going to be guest hosting, I was doing a ton of training. I would do strength training in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I would do like cardio 2 times throughout the day just to make sure I could still summon the energy.
To have the pheromones released. Yeah. I can absolutely see that. To be sharp. I wanted to ask you, in your personal life, we know you were in the music industry, or may actively still be. Went to school for communications, and so
music. I studied music.
Music. Okay. So what do you do? We had a little bit of a hint here and there.
Yeah.
But specifically, what are you mostly involved with, Buzzy?
I do music for commercials, actually.
Okay.
So I do. I find music for commercials, or I, hire composers to write music for commercials.
Do you yourself play or write, or?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't really do anything professionally, but for fun, I play and write a lot. Yeah.
So for specific campaigns, you'll choose the music.
Absolutely. So I'm sure everybody is gonna give me a hard time for this, but like the Airbnb campaign that everyone thought was the In Memoriam films.
Right.
I did all those. So I did all the music for those.
Very nice. Very nice.
I do. Yeah.
I mean, that can be very lucrative. Now, obviously, you get a quicker hit from a win on Jeopardy. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this is true. We have big discussions about nicknames on the show and how one earns a nickname. Were you appointed your nickname while still in
yes.
in utero?
Yeah,
you were.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, I'm 36, and I think when I was in my mom's stomach, we didn't have sexing of babies yet. It wasn't quite as advanced as it is now.
Right.
And so they didn't know if I was a boy or a girl. And I have an older sister, and she needed something to call the bump, right? Because it was like, oh, there's a baby in there. And my dad had gone to high school with a guy named Buzzy, and he thought it was a cool name. To be honest, I think the original nickname was Bozo. And my mom was like, we're not calling this baby Bozo.
You dodged a bullet.
We switched to Buzzy. They gave me my real name, Austin, after Steve Austin, the $6 Million Man.
Cool.
My sister's name is Lindsay, like Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman. So
no way.
Big fans of
Bionics
sci-fi.
That's funny.
But the funny thing is, like, my great-grandmother, who was alive when I was born, my mom was like, all right, I'm going to let her decide, because my dad kept calling me Buzzy. And my mom's like, there's no way she's going to let this kid be called Buzzy. And my great-grandmother, like, spent some time with me, and she goes, Austin's much too big a name for such a little person. I'm going to call him Buzzy. And so that's how I've been Buzzy for my whole life.
Your fate.
There you go.
Nice.
It works, though.
Well, listen, you've done a great job. The hosting
Thank you.
continues through to Friday, and Tournament of Champions. And, of course, you can see that at 7 o'clock on ABC here locally in Philadelphia. Buzzy, great talking with you, man. Thanks so much for coming on this morning. We appreciate
Go
it.
Birds. Trust the process.
There you go.
Love it.
He knows it all.
Cohen, man. Take care, brother. We'll see you later. Oh, my God. That's great.
Terrific.
He's
That
actually
is great.
from Jersey.
I did not know that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, if I had the confidence, that's the show I'd love to be on. I just don't have the confidence to be on something that wide ranging. Every now and then I'll get, man, I can run like 2 categories and feel like, oh, I'm the champ.